Well, thank you, Carlos, for being on today's show. I know that you have a busy schedule, and that we appreciate your the time that you're taking here to be on this podcast for our sixth episode. For the viewers that don't know much about MBS Performing Arts, can you share your insights about what it is and what your hopes are for the business?
Oh, certainly. So, MBS Performing Arts is a performing arts center that gives back to the community of grades K through 12. And what we do, we take those students and we train them to become professional musicians in their own aspects, whether that is performing, whether that is writing, whatever type of aspect they want to do, we train them to become professionals. And what we do, we let them perform, we let them learn the theory aspects of music, and what we do is we charge them a tuition cost within the program to be part of MBS Performing Arts.
That's incredible. I know music education and school band is very near to my heart because I was played trombone for 4 years in high school. So I know what makes me passionate about music and music education. But why don't you tell our listeners a little about what makes you so passionate about music and music education?
Certainly. So basically, I remember when I first got my first instrument, and my mom bought me a drum set when I was 8 years old. And learning the drum set and developing my skills was great. I remember definitely listening to different tracks, drumming along to them, was definitely one thing that pushed me into developing a great music skill. I then got into middle school and I was cut from the drum line, unfortunately, when I auditioned for it. And that was definitely something that hit hard, and I had to find another instrument to play. And so I end up trying the trumpet. And from that point on, I end up falling in love with it. And so basically, through middle school and high school, I ended up joining different ensembles. I ended up joining three different jazz bands. I was end up award-winning jazz bands for 4 years in a row, and it was amazing. I ended up marching DCI, and which is a very competitive professional drum and bugle corps that tours just about 40 states within 4 months, and it was an amazing activity. And I ended up going to Blue Lake as well, which is a well-known performing arts camp. I ended up marching with the Marching Chippewas and also being part of the concert band also at CMU, which really helped and develop my music theory and my background in music as well.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I know, what you talk about is the journey of how you became who you are and within the music industry. And I think that's really awesome that you stuck with it and you continued to persevere. And I think, as you can relate, because correct me if I'm wrong, but you were in the New Venture competition, right?
Yes, I competed actually 3 years in the New Venture competition.
Yeah. So you understand the student community aspect to it, which is pretty awesome. What are you doing necessarily for for MBS Performing Arts? I know it's focused on students, but what are you doing for the entrepreneurial community within the student realm? Whether it's personally or through the business.
Yeah, so what we do with people who want to have an entrepreneurial background, we kind of focused on them the way I was focused on myself. I ended up starting my own record label when I was just about 14 years old. I managed just about 6 different artists. I wrote between just about 1,000 to about 2,000 songs within that time frame of owning that record label. Um, and what we do is we teach them how to be producers, how to own your own record label, how to develop and become a business. Because not everybody wants to be performers. We also teach kids within our new program that we want to develop business management for music. We also teach them that music don't just have to be playing. We teach them that you can go within entertainment law. We teach them how to do the background within music financing. There's so many things into music that is just like an actual business that runs every single day. A record label such as Rockefeller or any one of them is no difference from something that is just like you guys in Ignite Donut. They also have to worry about the finances. They also worry about the economy. There's so many things that a record label have to focus on than just the music.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's really cool that you're turning an area that usually doesn't really focus on business or entrepreneurship or startups, music education, but you're really encouraging students to pursue that. And I guess that kind of leads me to another question. Do you think traditional music education should maybe include some more business classes, some more finance classes to prepare musicians to go into the real world and try to make money?
I would agree, yeah, that we should incorporate it. And the reason why I say that is because not everybody's going to fall into that performance aspect. You might find that you want to do managing artists, or you might want to go into something like what I'm doing. I'm going into now entertainment law, and I want to do the contracting, the copyrights. I want to draft the contracts for the artists and the producers and different things such in those nature. Then I feel that that kids should be introduced into the background of what it is like to be an artist. It's not just performing, it's not just writing, and it's not just making a beat. There's so much more behind it that we don't understand. And I done learned a lot also from the master's program at CMU that me and Casey is in, with the copyright class that we were taking with intellectual property from Louis Foreman, that I know you guys had on your previous episode. And learning about the intellectual property would really help anybody in the music industry, because intellectual property like copyrights and performance rights, you're your own intellectual property as a performer. You are the product. And you're like, basically, with Ignite Donut, your product is a donut. But to a performer, they are the product. They are the one who got to get themselves out there. They are marketing themselves. They are the product. They are the intellectual property that they got to protect. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't agree with you more on that. I think that's really cool, the perspective that you're taking, and hopefully the classes that we're taking will continue to inspire us to go into a more thought-provoking direction. And in regards to that, do you think like the future of the music education industry is evolving into a new age, or like where do you see the music education industry headed in the next several years?
It's definitely tough because the music education world want to be cut. It's not something that is rigorous and challenging, such as Interlochen and Blue Lake. Within grades K through 12 in a public setting, and want to be cut. But I always tell people there's more to the music industry than just the performance background. We need to teach kids how to incorporate it into your math and your history. There's so much more behind it. And over the next 5 to 10 years, I could really see music definitely making a comeback within the community. And the reason why I say that is because I look at different colleges offering way more than just now a school of music that offers performance and teaching backgrounds for their degrees. There's now degrees for managing artists. There's now degrees for music finance. There's now a degree for record producing and learning how to do tech setup for musicians and lighting and all of that. There's now degrees which have been for composition, but they're get more niche into the market of screenwriting and movie writing and so much more. So it's going to start developing more because you realize music is such a broad topic with the music education that we got to get more narrowed down into it, that you need 20, 30 people to run a decent record label sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's interesting. So, I can't help but thinking this is kind of a strange time right now. Obviously, there's the coronavirus pandemic affecting all of us. We're doing this podcast remotely. How is your business in particular, and maybe the music industry as a whole, adapting to the current pandemic and the coronavirus?
Well, for my business, we took a huge hit because we
So did
had
ours. If it makes you feel any better.
man, we had to stop full production of our business completely, and we right now this is probably gonna be our first year we're gonna be in a negative because of what's going on. Um, because with our governor shutting down schools for the rest of the year, a lot of fine arts camps are now canceled for the rest of the year. We had to follow suit to protect our students because the health is the number one thing we want to focus on. And this is really affecting in a impactful way on what's going to happen. But thanks to programs such as Zoom, Skype, FaceTime, we're still able to interact with our kids who go through the music programs. And we can't do it the same way as we used to with ensembles and 20, 40 kids in one space. But we're able to do one-on-ones with the students. We're able to do lessons with the students and really develop that individual student a little bit more rather than focusing on developing an ensemble. So during this time frame, we really kind of broke down each individual student rather than developing an ensemble as a whole.
Yeah, because I can't help but thinking, a lot of students are at home. They're no longer in school. And if they're really passionate about their instrument, they're probably playing their musical instrument all the time now. They have more free time. And there might be a silver lining. I can't help but thinking that maybe there's a good side to this. Maybe individuals can develop their musical skills more.
Yeah, it's definitely a silver lining when we can interact with our students one-on-one a little bit more because when you're in an ensemble setting, you really can't interact with each individual of your 40 students. You got to interact with everybody within that room. But during this time frame, we can interact with 1, 2 students by themselves. We can interact by having them watch YouTube videos on professionals and understanding where they can go. We interact a little bit more on history now and breaking down what it is, and not just really teaching them the technical skills. We're teaching them the history and different things such in those natures now for what's going on. And I talk to a lot of my old band directors and my band director friends, and it's kind of we all going down that same route that we're kind of just focusing on really developing each individual student and developing more of that time that we lose in the classroom, not focusing on one-on-ones.
Mhm. Yeah, that's the sign of a true entrepreneur is the ability to pivot your business and make something good out of a bad situation.
Very true.
Yeah, and I think what you're doing now, Carlos, is actually making it, you're adding even more value to the students because you're making it personable. I know it's not exactly, what you envisioned, but, like individually making an impact on these students are going to go so far where, years down the road, they'll be making the same impact that you're doing right now in different ways. And so I think that's really cool. And it's part of the lessons that we are learning from this whole pandemic is that like there is still some good obviously that we can take from this. So I think that's pretty cool that you all are still sticking with it, and I want you to hopefully continue doing so because kids are bored now. They got to do something, and having an instrument and a coach, a one-on-one coach, is going to take them places. There's a lot of life lessons involved in that.
Yeah, certainly. There's always going to be life lessons involved with such a thing like this. And it really teaches us that we can't take advantage of what we have when we're in a classroom setting. And that's what I feel like this is teaching our students, that those moments where you get to perform, you can't take it for advantage. You got to make sure that you put everything out there. And that's the one thing that I am grateful for this time frame, actually, to show that our students that you're now missing some of the performances that you have. Last year, did you give everything that you could, knowing that you can't do it again this year? And a lot of them say they sometimes regret that they didn't give 100% when they did their last performance. And it hurts because knowing that you could have gave more to an assignment, to a practice, to a rehearsal, or to a performance, it's hard to hear. But I've learned as a performer and even as an entrepreneur, don't take anything for granted right now, because you can sometimes not have to see it again. And it's a lot of businesses right now, especially during this Corona time, are negatively affected and might not come back. And so we look at it as, did you give 100% before this happened to everything that you did?
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good topic. I think that businesses that have not given 100% prior to this pandemic, especially individuals, they are learning the hard way that, or hopefully they are acknowledging that they didn't give it 100%, or they acknowledge that they can do more. And I think right now is a good lesson to learn. And I'm hoping that people see this as an opportunity to start doing things now. It's like the only way you're going to get good at music is if you practice and you have the resources to learn. And it's all about that content, pushing that content and learning from your mistakes, learning from all those lessons. Businesses are the same way. I'm hoping that businesses that are trying to ride the storm, they're actually putting in effort about analyzing themselves, seeing where they had their mishaps, and providing actual value to their consumers or to their employees. Because I think what we are all coming to an understanding is now is that everything is open. Like we're seeing all the flaws that we all had. And I think that in a way, it's really good. And so the businesses that aren't doing anything and don't see that they can get out of this financial situation, this tough time, I think they're not necessarily going to be the ones learning the most from it, because they're just moving on to maybe something else. Maybe that's the best decision to do so. But I agree with you that like people need to give it 100% at all times. People need to be giving it 100%, especially right now too. Just learn to adapt. Like what you're doing is you don't have a whole ensemble of 40 individuals, but you're doing what you can with 1 to 2 individuals per time. And I know that probably fills up your schedule and fills up our schedule doing other things. But without Corona, I don't know when this podcast series would have started. I mean, this really put us, made us.
Yeah, I mean, it was on the back burner for a long time.
Yeah, so, and including with the baking show that we have and all the other branding aspects that we were trying to do. So, yeah, I think it's interesting. I do have a follow-up question that's slightly related, but it's a different topic. It's in regards to the new venture competition. So you did it 3 times, Carlos, which is, I give you praise for that. That's a lot. And to go in there and get criticized by judges. What's your overall thoughts of the experience within the new venture competition? What would you like to see in the future if you could go back and share some thoughts, and the new venture competition committee would actually use your insights to improve it?
Man, that's a tough question there, because I've learned a lot from New Venture. I pivot my business multiple times while doing it, and I have learned some of the most, how can I say, important aspects for my business from New Venture. New Venture, when I heard about it when I was doing my associate degree at Delta College, that really pushed me to go to CMU, and that's what actually pushed me to start my business. If it wasn't for New Venture, I wouldn't have started NVS and been pushed to start NVS. And things that I will probably change about the competition, man, I would definitely say I would like more feedback from the judges. I don't think we can get enough criticism and enough feedback as an entrepreneur. I feel no matter what type of feedback, positive or negative, we kind of need it, because some things that's left unsaid from a judge that could be told to us is definitely something important. Um, I thank my mentor, Tom McElgin, for being bluntly honest with me every single time
Yeah.
I had him. And if you guys met Tom McElgin, he's definitely an interesting individual, and he's not afraid to speak his mind, no matter what word may come out of his mouth. But he definitely kind of told me how to develop and change my business. He helped me change my value propositions. He helped me change what my executive summary was. He helped me change staffing, and he helped me change financing and overall aspect of my business. And people like even Lewis, who I met from the New Venture Competition when I did it my second year, was definitely an aspect that I really enjoyed about New Venture, because they kind of gave me those comments that I wanted to hear. They didn't hold back, and they were kind of honest, and that's what I feel like the judges sometimes lack, because I know we only get so many minutes of judges' feedback. I feel like we need more time with the judges, and I get it. It's only one day, and it's all day long, and it's definitely a stressful environment. And for 3 years of doing that, it was tough. And but I feel like we need more feedback, more time to really get that honesty from the judges and develop our business.
Yeah, Carlos, I couldn't agree with you more. I did New Venture Competition this year, but it moved online. And one of the worst things that happened because the online switched was the lack of judge feedback. I finished the competition. I really don't even know what the judges think about my business. And it really showed me how important it was for that feedback. Um, Really the most valuable thing about the New Venture Competition. So.
Very true. And I feel like New Venture should bring back alumni every year from the competition, because we first-handedly know what is it like to compete in the competition. We first-handedly know what those judges are looking for in the competition. I feel like NVC should really bring back alumni to mentor, to judge, to really kind of coach the students through it. And I really feel that would help, because I know Casey, he did New Venture Competition, and I think it was my first or second year I did it with them, and it was just an amazing time. And I wish I could go back and definitely mentor some more students and kind of tell them right off the bat really how to hit the ground running, because some businesses don't understand going through that competition. You got to hit it from day one of the school year, making sure that you know what you want to do with this competition. And
Yeah.
that's the one thing that I feel that's the hole that students fall into. They get scared because they're not being pushed.
Yeah. And I think you're pretty right on that. I do think the New Venture Competition does bring back some alumni, but it's like alumni from 5+ years ago that none of us know, which is fine. But it's not necessarily the most relatable at all times. And because the business world, the world that we live in currently right now, is evolving so fast with technology. Like, things are changing, and business plans are still relevant and still important. And maybe that's another conversation for another day. But in reality, if people are looking for investment, not every business necessarily needs a business plan. If you have 100 million followers on Instagram or Twitter about something, a business concept, there's your credibility. And so I think it's interesting, and you have a lot of good points on there. I would like to see more people, more alumni being invited to these competitions, whether it's Make a Pitch or a New Venture Competition. I think a lot of people, if they are interested in the New Venture Competition, they have to physically reach out themselves in trying to be a judge or just a mentor. But now with technology, there should be no excuse where we can have any alumni who wants to join in, who has a cell phone or has a computer with a webcam, to come and mentor students, because we can do that virtually anywhere now. And I think that hopefully, I hope that they go into that direction in regards to having more support, because there's a lot of things that you and I have learned who none of us, between the three of us, none of us won the grand prize. So we don't always need the most successful person at the competition to be the mentors, because there's a lot of life lessons of doing it years and years in of doing the competition that we've learned,
Very true. And when I was doing New Venture, I had the benefits to be mentored by some of the greatest alumni within New Venture. Kurt Behringer, who took the $30,000. I also met Anthony Lazaro, who was part of BeerGo, and we all know or heard of BeerGo at least once on CMU campus. I was able to meet a lot of alumni through different years of the competition. And that's the one thing that benefited me, was to able to hear their experience, but not just once, but throughout my whole 8 months of doing the competition. Because sometimes hearing it once, you don't retain that information. Sometimes having that alumni as a mentor there that you can reach out to really helps. And that's the one thing that sometimes I hear from a lot of students in NVC, is that they wish they had understood in the beginning what it was like. And not to be like saying it's a bad thing, but I really feel sometimes the adults don't understand what the students go through with this competition, and on top of being in class and taking up 21 credits. So definitely bringing back alumni who have been in those type of spots before, and how to manage your time and how to develop a business, because you're not just developing a competition business, you're developing a life business, something that you hopefully want to do for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's so true. Hopefully New Venture Competition can bring back some more alumni. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. So Carlos, could you tell our listeners, our viewers, how they can contact you and how they can learn more about MBS?
Yeah, certainly. So you guys can definitely reach out to me. You can go to MBS website, mbsperformingarts.com, or you can go to our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, which is all MBS Performing Arts for our handles. You can definitely reach out to me at Carlos Shorter at mbsperformingarts.com as well. So there's definitely many ways that you guys can also reach out to MBS and get involved. So definitely do not hesitate to reach out.
Great. Thank you, Carlos. It was great having you on, learning how music education and entrepreneurship can mix. We'll have your website linked in the description, so anyone who wants to check it out can check it out. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.